Okay, so when you guys look at your notes, we've got some fill-in pieces here. My guess is as you look along the vocab along the left-hand side, parallel lines, parallel planes, and skew lines, at least one or two of those are going to be familiar terms to you. So let's start with what I would think would be the most familiar. So one, parallel lines. What are parallel lines? Well, the key is that they are lines that do not intersect. Now, as you guys are looking at this, here's the thing. We have another fill-in, and the fill-in that is in front is super important that they are coplanar. In other words, they are in the same plane. So coplanar lines that do not intersect. When you are writing the fact that they are parallel out, like with using symbols, you're going to be using arrows in the picture. So as you guys look, those are what you see in the picture that indicates parallel. However, the symbol, when you guys are writing this, would say, well, in the picture on the left, line AB is parallel, and so they have these slanty parallel lines. They are parallel to line CD. Okay, so in the picture, it's the arrows, but when you write it out with the symbols, it has those slanty parallel lines. Now, when you look below at parallel planes, same concept. Okay, the only difference is you don't have that coplanar piece in the front. These are just planes that do not intersect. So if you think about real life, planes that don't intersect. So things like the ceiling and the floor in a room, or the front wall and the back wall of a room. Hopefully the engineers have created it in such a way that those planes are indeed parallel. Again, when you look at your symbolic notation, you're going to say that plane J is parallel to plane K. And remember, when you write out that word plane, it either is followed by 3 non-collinear points or a capital cursive letter, which in our picture we don't have any points. That's why we stick to the capital cursive letter. Now, a skew line. These are ones that I'm going to guess you probably are not super familiar with. So the skew lines, they're also lines that do not intersect. So they have that in common with parallel. However, the difference is parallel lines are coplanar, whereas skew lines are non-coplanar. So if you think about a room, okay, pretend that you're sitting in this box and you're looking up at the front of the room and you have that line there, and then if you look behind you at a vertical line, those two lines would be considered skew. They're not on the same plane, but if you were to extend them forever, they would not intersect because this, again, this back here is along this back wall, whereas this is along the front wall, and it will not intersect. Okay, so when you're looking below at examples, I just created an example. You have segment WD and segment PT. That would be one example. If I wanted to, I could get rid of PT and I could use UQ instead. So I have WD and UQ. If I got rid of WD entirely and I went with, let's say, TW, and I can do VR in the back. So that would be another example. There are multiple pairs. These are not the only options. But again, the key is they cannot be on the same plane and they never ever intersect. Now, one of the things to be mindful of with this, the thing that people always get wrong is they will see that segment and that segment and assume that those are skewed. Technically, these are parallel. Okay, you notice they're both horizontal, and you could insert a plane diagonally in here that would connect those two, so those would make those coplanar lines instead of non-coplanar, meaning that those lines are going to be parallel. Okay. Again, the easiest way though is to think about it is they're both horizontal in our picture. Okay. Same thing if we look at TW and QR, they are both slanted in the same direction, so those would be parallel, not skew. So if we look at some examples, name all segments parallel to AE. You've got AE running vertical, so you have all of the segments running vertical. You've got DH, GC, segment GC, and then segment FB. Right? We look at part B. We have two examples of parallel planes. Well, we have technically 3 pairs. So I would look at the top and the bottom. So again, you're going to use the word plane and you're going to use 3 non-collinear points. So if I'm looking at the top, I can use E, F and G. Technically, I could use H instead of one of those. And then I'm going to do the bottom. Again, I'm going to use 3 of those points. I could technically use D instead of A, B, or C, and that would be fine. So I did the top and the bottom. And then I'm going to do the left and the right. Again, you could do the front and back. So the left side would be A, D, E. And again, I could use H in place of one of those. And then the right would be plain BCG. Okay? And it says name all segments skew to GH. Let me show you a little trick here. So GH is the one running horizontal. What I would recommend is I would look at all of the ones parallel first. Parallel are the ones that are going to pop out. So parallel would be here, here, and here. All of those are running horizontal. Then I would also look at GH and figure out what segments are part of that same plane. So GH is a part of the top rectangle, so is EH, and so is FG. Those are both parts of that top rectangle. It's also going to be part of the back rectangle. So you have GC and HD are also part of their back rectangle, as well as that DC. Now what I've done by highlighting those is I've eliminated all of the segments that are not skewed. So everything that you still see in black, those are skewed segments. So I have segment AE, I've got segment AB, I've got segment BC, and I have segment DF. All of those segments are skewed. So again, my strategy was that I went ahead and highlighted all of the ones that are parallel. I also highlighted all of the ones that are lying in the same plane as that HG, and then anything that remains are going to be considered skew. When I look down at example number 2, it says name all segments parallel to JK. So if I look here, JK is running at that angle. The only other one that's running at the same angle are segment OP. Name all segments parallel to segment NS. This is a little different because it's running diagonal. So all of these running in that same direction are going to be considered parallel. So you have 4 others. You have segment MR, you have segment LQ, you have segment KP, and last but not least, you have segment JO. Name a plane parallel to JKLM. Now, I want you to notice they did name this with 4 points instead of 3. That's just a different difference of different kind of texts or publishers. So 3 or 4 letters are fine. Sometimes you'll even see them use 5 letters. So that's the plane that they are talking about. The one that's going to be parallel to that is the one in the back. So I'm going to do plane, and then again, I'm only going to require you guys to use 3 letters, so S or Q is fine. You could use O or P as well. Name 4 segments skew to segment RQ. So again, I'm going to go ahead and outline RQ. I'm also going to outline any segment that's on the same plane. So I'm going to do that whole pentagon. And then I'm also going to do any segment that's part of that rectangle. So that rectangle is going to be here. And then I'm going to do anything parallel. Well, the only one that's parallel is this one I've already highlighted. So anything that I haven't outlined yet is going to be considered skewed. So I have NS, I've got NJ, JK, and then I also have KP. Now, there are others. Anything there that's not highlighted works. Okay? So as you guys are looking at this, that's some basics of vocab. You will also see on the back some stuff with transversals and angles. All a transversal is a line that intersects 2 or more lines. So in our picture that you see here, line T is the transversal. Okay, line T is considered the transversal. Now, if you notice here, you've got some definitions. Okay, corresponding angles are angles on the same side of the transversal and in the same position. The key is in the same position. So what I always encourage people to do when they first learn this is to outline the intersections with boxes. So as I'm looking, I'm going to look in the same spot on that box. So if I look at angle 1, it's in the upper left-hand corner of that box. So is angle 5. So angle 1 and angle 5 are considered corresponding. And then I'm going to look at the upper right-hand corner, 2, and the upper right-hand corner, 6. those are considered corresponding. And then the same thing, lower left, so angle 4 and 8, and then angle 3 and angle 7 are both in that lower right-hand spot. Okay? With the alternate interior angles and alternate exterior angles. Keywords, interior versus exterior. So interior is inside the lines, exterior is outside the lines. So when I say the lines, what I'm referencing are the non-transversal lines. So if I'm looking here, all of those angles inside are interior, okay? When it says opposite sides of the transversal, you're going diagonal. So if you're looking at angle 4, that's going to be connected to angle 6. So angle 4 and angle 6 are considered alternate interior, and then you're going to go the other way, 3 and 5. The reason that they have to be non-adjacent is if I was looking at just 4 and 3, those are considered a linear pair, and linear pairs cannot be alternate interior angles. Now, we look on to alternate exterior. Now we're looking outside the lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of cross off this inside piece so we can just kind of ignore it. The outside angles, same concept. We have to cross that transversal. So if we're looking at angle 1, it's going to match up with angle 7. Those are alternate exterior angles. And then the same thing for angle 2 and 8. Okay, consecutive interior angles. If we look at those, again, we're going to go back to the interior angles. Consecutive means that they're on the same side of the transversal. So if we look at that transversal, splitting that picture up, 4 and 5 are going to be same side, 3 and 6 are going to be same side. So angle 4 and 5 are considered consecutive interior, and then 3 and 6 are considered consecutive interior. Now, consecutive interior is what this particular document calls these angles. There are some books and some pieces of information that call them same side interior. So if you see that phrase, just know it means the same thing, just meaning that they're on the same side of that transversal. Okay? All right, moving down below. Basically, you are looking at the types of angle relationships and you were trying to figure out what they are. So if you look at angle 1 and 8, the first thing you want to ask, are they interior or exterior or both? Okay? If you look at 1 and 8, 1 and 8 are both on the outside of these transversal, or excuse me, those lines. So they're exterior and they're on opposite sides of that transversal. So they are alternate exterior angles. And I'm just going to abbreviate. We look at 2 and 3. 2 and 3 are both inside and they're on the same side of that transversal, so that makes them consecutive interior. If we look at 5 and 7, 5 and 7, you have one on the outside here, one on the inside here. They are in the same location if you were to draw that box around. So if they're in the same location, they are corresponding. And then 2 and 7, both are on the inside, and then again, opposite side of the transversal, so they are alternate interior angles. 1 and 3, if we look at those boxes, we have one in the upper left, one in the upper left. They are corresponding angles. And then 6 and 7, both of those are inside, making them interior. They're on the same side of that transversal, so they are consecutive interior angles. Okay? Consecutive interior angles. So what I'm going to have you do is take just a minute and do the second example in full, and then I'm just going to throw the answers in there and let you guys take an opportunity to check the work. Okay, so we have from the top, corresponding angles, alternate interior angles, alternate exterior, alternate exterior, same side or consecutive interior, corresponding, consecutive interior, none, none, and alternate interior. Okay, guys, so here are your answers. Please double check your work. Make sure you ask any questions if you need them. Thank you.